we will. And this meeting is being recorded. So first we will call the roll. I need my participant. There's Eric. Good. Okay, so I'm just going to call the roll. Eric Winkler.
Present.
Louis Hasbrook.
Here.
Angie Gregory.
Here.
Deb Clemmer.
Here.
Rachel Flynn Kasuba.
Here.
Ben Webster. Okay, we have quorum and we are here. Thank you everyone for joining us. This is the November 25th, 2025 meeting of Northampton Energy and Sustainability Commission. And the first thing on the agenda is the public comment. Do we have any members of the public who wish to make a comment? If so, please raise your virtual hand. That looks like none. So the next issue is to NCEC secretary. What is that? Okay. NCEC secretary, I'm not sure who you are, but if you are a member of the public and you would like to be making a comment, we're just about to close public comment. Oh, it's Eric.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Thanks, Ben. Sorry about that. Is it okay if I make an announcement about upcoming heat pump coach trainings? Just real quick.
I think so, yes.
Okay. Thank you. There will be 3 training. I'm a member of the Heat Smart Alliance, a volunteer coaching group, and we train coaches to accelerate the transition from fossil fuels to electric systems, more efficient, blah, blah, blah. So that we're going to have a training in January, and then there will be another one in April that was part of a Pioneer Valley Planning Commission grant that Mimi Kaplan filed, and that's to really be to train coaches from area towns. Like she said, there are 14 towns that expressed interest. So hopefully we can spread the word. And if you have questions about, how to get people into the training, I'll point you in the right place. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. Is there any more public comment? Otherwise, we will go to approval of the minutes. Does anyone want to discuss the minutes?
Move to approve.
Any second?
Second.
Second.
Second. Okay. I will call the roll on the vote to approve the minutes. Eric Winkler.
Approve.
Louis Hasbrook.
Approve.
Angie Gregory. Angie.
Sorry. Yes. Approve.
Yep. Excellent. Deb Clemmer.
Yes.
Rachel Flynn Kasuba.
Yes.
Ben Weil, yes. Okay, the minutes are approved. And our first topic is our guest, Maya Warner from Smith College, who's going to share with us about a collaborative exposure.
I need to turn my microphone on the Zoom as well.
No, I think you're audible.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, I am Maya Warner. I am the chair of the Smith Student Government Association's Sustainability Committee. I'm here to talk about a potential partnership we are hosting on April 17th from 11:30 to 1:30, a eco fair where we are hoping to bring in local farmers, vendors, organizations from Smith, nonprofits from around the area to talk about ecology and sustainability and how they bring that to their organization. and just for a sort of exposure to show people in the community and people at Smith what is going on in the area and how they can get involved. It is sponsored by SGA Sustainability. We are hoping to have music, food from local vendors who provide food to Smith already. And music, we're hoping to have a live band if we can. And we would like for you guys to have a table at our event if you would like to talk about any of your past initiatives, organizational topics, anything that is of interest that you would like to share with the community. If you would like to participate, there will be a table for you. That's my presentation.
That's great. Does anyone on the commission have any ideas about that?
I'd be interested to support a table effort and also kind of talk with Smith students about the pollinator subcommittee, because we're kind of at a point where we're looking for ways to kind of expand the programming of that. And I think there's a lot of opportunities within either coursework or praxis to engage more Smith students in some of the future projects of the pollinator subcommittee. So that was my initial thought. Can you remind me the date again, Maya?
That is going to be April 17th, 2026.
And is there a time of day, or is
It's going to be around lunchtime, 11:30 to 1:30.
okay?
Timing wise, that's pretty good for pollinator subcommittee activities, right? Like for recruiting people to do something. So I certainly would support us having a table, especially if Angie and the pollinator subcommittee want to kind of lead on that. It seems like your focus is on more of the ecosystem services sides of sustainability than a lot of the technical stuff that we often do here. Is that a correct characterization?
It is, but honestly, I would rather have a full characterization of activities going on in the region. So if you want to talk about very technical stuff, I'm happy to host that as well.
I mean, and then the target audience for this group, can you elaborate on that a bit more?
So the target audience, we're hoping to have this sort of like a fair. We're calling it the Eco Fair. So we want to have students to show up. It's going to be during their lunchtime, right before finals and the end of the semester. So we are hoping to get students to come and engage. There's going to be a upbeat sort of environment and atmosphere, if you will. And maybe people from around the community who might be on lunch break. It's on a Friday, and so we are hoping that professors or faculty, staff from campus can also participate. Anyone who's walking around on Smith campus is free to come and engage. So truly anyone who wants to come.
Okay. Is Beth Hooker involved with this?
Yes.
Okay. Would it make sense for us to coordinate with her, at least check in with her? The reason I ask is I know that this sounds like yes, open to the community, but really a bit Smith College campus focused. And I know that she's kind of in charge of all that. And so there might be, I mean, there could be an opportunity, right, for like, say, the pollinator subcommittee. I mean, I keep on wanting to see it spin off into an enterprise, where you actually have enough people who want to kind of create these habitats on private property. And so this might be an interesting way to think about the Smith College campus, where what's going on there, and how could that be something that maybe Smith students who, I mean, I don't know what percentage of Smith students stay around in the summer. It's pretty small, right? Yeah, so I'm just trying to think about what's the kind of utility for us, and who we're trying to reach, and what are we trying to ask them to do.
Yeah. So it is sponsored by the Student Government Association, so that's why it feels concentrated on the students. This is a partnership between the Sustainability Committee and SEEDS. They're helping us facilitate that, but we're the ones organizing it. So if you would like to contact Beth Hooker, I can create that connection as well.
I think we can do that part. So I think the basic takeaway is Angie, as leader of this pollinator subcommittee, could be willing to
Yes, I'm
lead us.
willing. And I did double check my work schedule because I actually work at Mount Holyoke. I'm their sustainability program manager. So,
Nice.
and it is very close to Earth Week when we do a whole lot of programming, but I just double checked and we do all of our programming the following week.
Yep.
So I should be available on that Friday. And I'm happy to speak to that. I'm also an ADA of 2020, so I'm happy to make the connection too. And I found when I was a student at Smith, it was really important to build connections to what was happening in the town. So I can speak to that in terms of designing projects, or how you can work independently within classes to be in service to things that are happening in the community. I think it's really good to have that connection to the town. So more than happy to take that on. And I can go a little technical too, so I don't have to just speak to the pollinator stuff, but I don't think I have the pulse on everything we're doing, but I'm happy to talk about those aspects too.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So Angie, what if you basically, it seems like you're kind of already volunteering to be the person who takes the lead on this, to run the
Be
table,
happy to. Yeah.
but that you can start to picture what support you might like from Kappa.
Yeah.
And just kind of directly connect with me and Gabi to try and, whether it is show up to table or with you and or get information that you want to have and don't, but that will let you kind of take the lead.
Would it be
Yeah.
fair to say that Angie is a contact person for this event?
Would that be fair,
Sure.
Angie?
Yes. Yes. I'll volunteer.
you.
Yes. Happy to. Yeah. And way to show up to a town meeting, Maya.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna give props to that.
Yeah. So does anyone have any other comments on this? Any other thoughts? All right. I would say that we can move on to Angie and the pollinator subcommittee update.
Perfect. If you want to stick around, Maya. So the last time we met as a subcommittee was in September, mid-September. And this was kind of at the start of the school year. And actually, the environmental club students lost their, let's say, teacher mentor, who is kind of maybe on sabbatical or maybe left the school. So they were kind of like, we have to figure out who can be our inside mentor. It seems like maybe one of the Spanish teachers was going to sign up to support them. So we just basically kind of did a little bit of, Rich was there too. We just kind of made sure that they were prepped up for the winter. So just to fully update the committee, because I don't know the last time I gave a report back to this full committee, they have a really big, beautiful, well-established pollinator garden, and it looks great. They've put a stone path through the middle, and there was various weeding efforts and watering efforts throughout the summer. And, this first season seems like things got really well established. So that's great. They're going to be working on getting a sign out to the garden, something with a QR code that can give people more information about what was planted there. We even talked about maybe this could be a part of an upcoming Northampton garden tour. So that could be something that the students could think about. There are some of the students who worked on this project have since graduated, but we do have one student who's kind of like continuing that thread. They're a senior this year, and there's a handful of new students. They had some future goals about how to kind of expand the garden area to reduce mowing. And they have found success in like doing like one-off work events through the school. Like they did a dig day and they had a ton of students from outside the club who came and helped. They were able to work with the principal and, you know, offer people the time to do it and like be able to get out of class without any penalty. So of course that got people there. And now we're kind of thinking about like other ways that like our like NESC's pollinator subcommittee can like continue to support this effort and also the students and maybe thinking about some of these larger things that you alluded to, Ben, about like how could this be kind of expanded into more areas, whether it's more of the public property of the city. They did talk about wanting to maybe help at JFK. They thought like it could be nice for the environmental club of the high school to maybe connect with if there's an environmental club at the middle school and kind of tell them how they went through this process and how they were able to establish it and maybe support them in establishing a pollinator garden there. And then we've talked about other ideas like maybe partnering with other existing groups. We've this committee has heard from the Miyawaki Forest group, and you know they were still looking for a site. So maybe there's a way that we could help that community. And then there was a discussion on maybe creating a residence guide. You know, something that can help with you know what the steps would need to be to take, what type of plants, where to find them. And then the level of support that the subcommittee could provide, maybe some sort of information, you know, packet that we could have. And I think some of those things could be more like student projects, either for students in the committee or if this was a collaboration with other students, you know, it could be a project that could come through folks at Smith. So those were the kind of topics that we talked about, and mostly just wanted to share that we did it. We have a garden. It looks amazing, and I think the students are interested in continuing to creep the edges and grow it little by little. So yeah. Any other questions? Let me know.
I've got
Thoughts.
a bunch of thoughts, but I do want to see if anyone else has any. Louis does.
Louis.
When is your next meeting? Or if I invited people to your meeting, would you talk to them when they got there? I'm thinking of a couple of different people who I'll reach out to and then let you know. But is that appropriate?
You mean like a resident like who's interested in doing something like this, or like someone who's connected to a larger group or a city central services person who's,
Somebody
you know,
who would be well, for instance, Laurel Park. It's
Laurel
mostly
Park.
wooded, but there's a fair amount of property, and then I've been bugging the Elks to do something about it.
Okay.
And there's a person that would run point on it, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be nice to have those connections. We don't have a meeting scheduled yet. I need to reach back out to the environmental club and find out if they're settled now with a mentor, like a teacher who's their mentor, and if we can schedule something. Most likely it probably would be maybe we could do something in December.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I'll write to you directly, Louis, when I know if we have a date.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Anyone else? Well, okay. So Angie,
I was going to say, no comments, just no questions, just congrats. I know there's been a lot of work pulling up to that, and I'm sure great to see it in action. So nice work.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really fun. I'm glad it worked out.
yeah, I just think it's a really great thing. You know, it took a long time to get ramped up to actually get to the point where it could happen, and then it did happen. And you know, so I had a meeting with the leaders of the high school environmental club, whatever, so last week maybe. It's all a blur. And they're, you know, they're both interested in expanding what they do, you know, to other areas other than this. But this was also like, we had this success, we were good at it. And of course, half of them are graduating, but it's like, you've actually created some knowledge, some, you know, some institutional knowledge, people who know now, like, what does it take to get it done? How could we do it? And you've learned things about like you said, about how to do a work day where you can recruit a bunch of people to do something quickly. And I really think, I mean, so I think like Louis' ideas about places to go next are great. Like, because that's what I think is something I would love to see, is that this expands into an enterprise where, you know, I've forgotten what it's called, but there are other cities that have a lot of like hardscape where people break up asphalt and concrete yards and basically turn it into to wild areas as a way to reduce like to increase water infiltration and reduce urban heat island and all that. So, and that's just for those people's yards, but we're doing the additional thing of pollinators. So one is, are there ways that we could think about institutionalizing this so this becomes not just a one-off club activity, but something where it's perpetuates itself every single year? There's a project that, you know, that goes through all the phases that you went through, so that a bunch of high school students all get this experience, and you know, so it's not a one-off, and that we think strategically potentially about where are these migratory corridors? How do we make sure that we actually pick other private property, public property, whatever it is, that's going to make for a habitat that's large enough to support the populations of the different types of critters that we're interested in. And the other part that you mentioned was a guide for like presumably for like homeowners or you know, property owners. That's something that actually a team from Smith College worked on for us. I guess it was just actually spring semester. It seems like longer ago, but so Alex Barron's environmental whatever capstone course, whatever that one is,
Yeah.
they did develop a rough guide and gave some guidance about where else to look. And they did have it kind of narrowed down to like kind of 3 levels of intervention, so we could see what could be borrowed from that.
Okay, yeah.
And if you've got it like again, if again, assuming we find that the environmental club really wants to create this enterprise that I'm imagining or something like it, they can literally go back to that same Smith College group, because what Professor Barron likes to do is hand off one project from one capstone team to the next. And so they start to build on each other. And so this could be one where we say, well, thanks for that preliminary work. We want the actual guide. And here's what we learned here. Here's what's actually practical.
Yeah.
With the
Was this the one where they did identified like the locations, like green spaces?
That was the first one. So we've already had 2 iterations from this
Okay.
environmental policy.
Yeah.
I forget what the name of the class is, but their capstone course. The first iteration was looking at public property and you know, like public stuff that the city could do with its own property.
Yeah.
And one thing that and they did pick some locations where it would be useful. To be honest, I like that's pretty narrow, and there's a lot more green space that is private than public. And so like, who knows, you know, there are many people I think who would like some help but don't know where to get started. So that's one part of it. So then the second group came along and said, okay, if you were to take the lessons from where to do projects and where to do different levels of intervention at the on the municipal property, like how could we convert this into a guide that homeowners could just use? And they didn't quite give us the guide, but they kind of gave us some criteria. And so it's one that we could kind of try to actually coordinate between the high school environmental club and this essentially consultant team to help them build that guide, maybe.
Mhm.
And then the last thing is, if we want this to perpetuate itself, we need to come up with a source of funds.
Yeah.
And I'm not so clear on that, except that if you were dealing with private property, you could at least charge something.
Mhm.
And that might be part of it. But I guess I'd open it up. First of all, maybe nobody thinks this is a good idea, but if they did, any ideas about how we could generate kind of a regular income for the environmental club, basically, to do projects like this?
Well, I mean, the environmental club does have, I mean, yes, we would probably have to supplement some things because I think they had a little bit more in their piggy bank before they got started, but typically they do the styrofoam collection that every year they get proceeds from to do stuff. They can solicit funds, general funds from their student government. I think upwards of maybe $500 a semester or a year. I can't remember exactly what they're eligible for. So there's a small amount that they can have each year to work from, but I think they started off with something like $2,000, and I can't remember exactly how much was spent. But that could be an exercise that we do to just kind of see.
And then we appropriated them something from the revolving fund too, right?
I don't believe we ever took anything from the revolving fund. We didn't have to because they had that amount from one of those previous, there was a teacher, right, who had kind of set aside some funds. I don't remember how that was started, but we never had to get anything from the revolving fund. We did the DPW and Rich, I mean, has provided some things in kind, helping to dump what was it? Wood chips and things like that, getting the water barrel filled up. I got a water barrel as a sample from a corporation. So like just there's ways we figured out how to get some stuff for free. But yeah.
Okay, so if as another project, this is fun, I'll dump more stuff onto Angie. If we were able to understand what a budget would be for, I guess, an annual project of a reasonable size for the environmental club to do, kind of every year, to sort of figure out what they have, what they need, and what the gap is. And maybe, like, let's imagine it's one of the locations that Louis talked about, and that they would be involved with that. Like, how much could they charge, before it became something that wasn't going to happen? And is there still a gap? And then maybe if we could bring that question back to NESC when we know what the gap is, we could then start to think about I mean, there's a lot of ifs before we get there, right? But does that sound like a good way to proceed?
I mean, I think a review on what they spent makes sense. I guess the only other flag that's coming up for me, and I don't know, maybe somebody else in this room knows, when it comes to a club charging for something and receiving money, like what's the handoff of that, and what other things do we have to make sure, right? If there's students working and they're getting paid for it, are there other kind of obligations in terms of I have no idea what, is there
Oh,
something that,
I mean, I would imagine it more in the form of like the way students will volunteer to wash cars, and they're raising money for the prom. And
I see.
you know
Yep.
what I mean? It's
Yep.
not so much that you're paying them for labor. Yeah,
Okay.
so structure it more like that. But it leave that to them and you to discuss, and see if there's a gap, and see if this is even something that people want to do.
I can ask around if I had some kind of an idea of the kind of, I mean, we're basically talking about the materials and the seeds and things like that, or whatever not labor that goes into a project. I have some experience with scouting as somebody young, and that was a lot. The scout troops did a lot of volunteer work, and I think that I could I could convince people to put up some money anyway, and it would be risk-free in the sense that the club wouldn't do anything until the materials were available. So that would work.
Makes sense.
I'll start asking around.
Very cool.
Great.
Cool. Thank you. Any other comment, or should we move to the next item. Okay, yes, the next two items are Gabi items.
Okay, yeah. They're two separate items, but they're kind of related. So we have a solar array at Smith Vocational Agricultural High School, as well as on top of the James House. And both of those, the license for our online monitoring platform has expired. So we are asking NESC if we can, for approval, to use $2,000 for both. So as of right now, we do know that Smith Voc will definitely cost $2,000, and there's a question about James House, but I think it makes sense to just ask for both right now, just in case, because they should be responding to us soon. So yeah, so we are asking to spend $4,000 total, so that we can get our online monitoring platforms back, which we need for mandatory state reporting, as well as just to check to make sure that everything is working properly. So yeah, that's about it. So I
Okay,
guess it would be a vote.
it would be a vote. So we would need someone to move to approve of $4,000 from the Energy and Sustainability Revolving Fund for the purpose of renewing
License.
our license to solar monitoring.
Can I ask a quick question first? What are we using the online monitoring for? And are we actually using it, I guess? And part of the reason I ask is we just went through this process at work and found a lot of our customers are not actually using their online software subscriptions. So
Yeah, so I log in every once in a while to make sure the solar is working. So like sometimes that's how I've caught Smith Voc, that the solar's just not working. So I do log in every once in a while. And then also, we use the online monitoring platforms to download production, and I have to upload that into Mass Energy Insight, which is what we are required to report for the state energy reporting. So that has already happened this year, so we won't really need it for a while for the energy reporting. But I do log in occasionally just to make sure they're both working. So it's not extremely time sensitive, but I do think it needs to happen eventually. So
Are you done? I have a question too. How often does this have to be renewed? Is it an annual fee or?
that's a great question. I don't know. This is the first, I mean, I've been here, a year? And this is the first time it's come up, a year and a half. So this is the first time it's come up. So I don't know. That's a great question. We're waiting for him to respond. So
Him is the
that's a
guy
good
in
question.
charge of
Mhm.
who's him, the guy that oversees this or?
Who's ever in charge of the online monitoring? I think I can't remember the company's name. Solren? I think it might be Solren.
Solren View.
Yeah, that might be it. All right, let's see. Smith Voc. James.
Are there other companies that do this that might be more, cost a little bit less, or would it not be worth, would it be worth looking around or switching companies, or is this kind of a standard price?
I don't know. So Solren View, I'm looking at it now. Solren View is who's in charge of James House and Smith Voc, but there's another company. I think it might have to do with the inverter. I'm not sure, but it's I think it's the inverter company. So hold on, I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, Solar Edge. So they're in charge of all the rest of the others, pretty much that the city owns. So I don't know how to switch it over, if that's possible, but it's
Yeah,
a
you
good
probably have
question.
like a thing that you have, like, in your home, you solely have the thing from the company, so
Mhm.
it might not be that easy
Yeah,
to do.
it's a good question though.
Thanks.
Eric has his hand up.
Okay.
He did text the same question, but Eric, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is it my turn?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, if you don't know the duration of the contract, it's kind of hard for me to sort of get my hands around voting for something like that. But you do need real-time access to the performance of the system, which is typically through the inverter. So it would be great to know what the cost is per year for that service, and maybe even look to see if there are other options. If that's $2,000 a year, that seems a lot. I personally get free data from my inverter company. So I'd be curious and would want to vote on a clear contract.
I think that's fair.
Louis?
And to piggyback on what Eric said, how much is the output of those panels compared to the cost of monitoring? And that would, I guess, depend on whether it was weekly or, I mean, whether it's annually or semi-annually or biannually or, and I have solar, and I have just trying to find the name of the company, but there's a company that does provide monitoring for me for without cost.
Okay, I think both, sorry, Deb.
Just one more thought. Did you say the city is using the same company for their other solar?
Not apparently all of our installations, right?
Yeah,
There's
Solar Ridge
variety.
is used for most of them. So it's a different company used for most of them.
Okay. Do you think it might be worth just trying to piggyback and maybe get like a group rate or something?
It's possible. It might have to do with the inverter. I don't, it's a
But if
good,
they want to get the business, they might,
yeah.
change it up.
Mhm.
And, maybe since we are getting other solar too, maybe we can get some kind of deal on the schools and something.
Mhm.
These
I
are
know
all
you're good
good
at that
questions.
stuff, Ben, so
Very good.
Yeah.
wheeling and dealing.
Sounds like I can ask all these questions. I think they're great questions. I can reach back out to him and try to find the answers and have it for next meeting, maybe? Or
Louis got another one.
okay.
Just that the company that does my small array is Enphase, Enphase.
So that is like the company that probably makes the inverter itself that you have.
It- It's typically the inverter company that offers the service. Like Tesla has an app, and you connect it to your inverter and you can get real-time performance. Most inverters will have that.
So I also know that there are several companies that will provide monitoring regardless of the inverter. And I think your feedback is really smart. And that what we should be doing is one, shopping around, seeing if we can get a bulk deal, including because we know that we will be getting at least monitoring for the projects that, presuming that they've voted forward at the schools, that it actually does make sense to see, can we get a bulk deal on all of them, including the variety of inverters that are just out there from all the different projects over the years. So I think shopping is a good idea at this point.
But I just want to caution you that each facility is a node in a data system that's pulling data. So you're not going to you still need a specific address and a connection vis-a-vis usually an internet connection. So I mean, I don't know if there's a bulk deal or not, but it certainly would be nice to know whether you're spending $2,000 a year now to monitor the system, because for that amount you could just have find a different way to monitor it. But you do need that data because that's what's going to collect your recs. So we need more information, I think, to move this forward.
Florence Field.
Yeah, I don't think we actually are getting Rex anymore. These are pretty old installations. So I think we're not getting it for these two anyway. I think, so it may be that this, so my recollection, and this is not, don't take this to the bank because it's just recollection from discussion with Gabi maybe months ago, was that basically the service was kind of like what had been paid for originally and it just expired. And so like it's at the end of maybe a decade. But I don't actually know. So I think the feedback that we've gotten from you guys is come back when you've done some shopping, when you when you have a good price and that you have a contract with a duration, and you know that we know what we're getting. Is that a reasonable summary?
Found your seed money for the pollinators.
So
Yep.
I would say let's not try to vote on anything. Let's just say we just took some advice.
Yep, that sounds good.
And you said it's not time sensitive, so we can definitely wait till next month. or-
Wait a little bit, yeah.
Do you have a regular schedule for checking the data from these arrays?
I don't. I just do it every once in a while.
That seems a little scary.
Okay. Yeah, I could make it more scheduled. Yes, I could do that.
Well, I mean, if the system is down and it's 3 months that it's been down in the summer, that would
Yeah.
sure be a problem.
Yeah, that's true. I will take that. I will schedule it on a regular basis. That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on this besides go home and do some homework?
Just that, so the panels, you said they're old, and how much life do you think they have left in them, or is there a way to?
Well, Smith Book has had problems. That's the one that we've come to ask for money, I think, I don't know, maybe a couple of times. It feels like a couple of times because Smith Folk has had problems on and off for the past year and a half. James House has not had any problems. So far, it just seems like Florence Fields and Smith Folk are the ones that have problems or reoccurring problems. And I think they're pretty old. They are old.
Yeah, I want to say Smith Folk is 2012 was the year. I'm not 100.
So
That's right.
Smith Folk is 2011.
2011.
And James House is actually 2010, but it's so much smaller. It hasn't had any issues. And those are the oldest, pretty much the oldest. We have a few others that are much smaller, but yeah.
So I can just Deb, I could just follow up on that. I mean, panels historically have a typical useful life of around 25 years, and they degrade over time in their ability to produce electricity. The power electronics, however, behave very differently. There's sometimes moving parts, electrical current, surges, things like that. And those are the things that occasionally need to be repaired within that useful lifetime. So I don't know if that's what you were getting at, is like how long are these panels going to be sitting up there till they need to be replaced? But it's typically 25 years.
So James House is there, and Smith Folk is not far behind, and they're still putting out production, right? I mean, and it's actually still like yes, it has the panels do decay, productivity decays, but Smith Folk's productivity is still good when the inverters are up. And it does appear to be fine right now, right? So
well, that's a problem, is I can't really monitor.
oh, right.
But I just did the state mandated reporting and they were fine. Everything was working when I did that. So that was pretty recent.
Which is it was last year, there was, when you first started, that there were some panels that weren't working that you looked into. Where was that?
That was Florence Fields and they ended up having to remove the panels entirely because it was something about series wiring between microinverters or something like that, where they had to find the bad one
Mm,
and then
like Christmas light
reinstall.
kind of thing.
Yeah. So they did that.
Mhm.
I guess, yeah, a bit more than a year ago.
Mhm.
And they're fine now,
Mhm.
right? I mean, these are all really small installations compared to what we're looking at. And with regard to Smith Voke, redevelopment of solar there is a really good idea. They have a huge amount of capacity, interconnection capacity. Like they could be a power plant. They've got so much. They're like the best location. I think they might be better than Cooley Dickinson. It's just crazy how much capacity they have in terms of interconnection. But their roofs are old, and
So it'd be a big,
yeah,
they'd have to do the roof and then
yeah,
new panels.
yeah. James House, I wish, so Katie did text me, Katie Deppen, the director of Central Services, did text me today, like, I've got a conflict, but I'll come if I can. I wish she
Mm.
could have come because she is considering issues having to do with envelope measures that she needs to deal with with James House to make it not fall apart. And so she might have an opinion as to like, we might need to take the PV down as part of a process, of building maintenance. So that's additional research that we should do before coming back to you guys. If there are no other comments, we will take our advice and go home. And I can pretty quickly update you on our our three school related projects. I think this was on the agenda. We've missed so many meetings that originally I put them on the agenda before we had gone to school committee and before we had gone to city council. And you all had given us our first kind of feedback on, are these good projects? And at the time, your feedback was, yes, the solar projects are good, but you're really excited about the geothermal at the high school, and we should really focus on that. And a few things happened along the way. So one is the Leeds Elementary School parking canopy became non-viable. We went out there with the engineers and there's like, oh boy, this slope at the end of the parking lot is just, it's going to make it really hard to get the structure in there. And it actually has a really, really long pathway of trenching to get the power to the electrical room. And so it became something that wasn't going to be cost effective. So we dropped that project. And surprisingly, Jackson Street School became easier to do. Instead of having to fight over cutting down a tree, we just shifted the panels, the canopy over to the other side of the parking lot, and everything was fine. Production was about the same, and the pathway to get to the electrical room of the school is easy. So we presented that project to school committee and to city council, and school committee unanimously approved it. And city council will be doing the second reading on December 4th. And we proposed that as a PPA. And there are basically two reasons for that. One is if you look at what it would cost to borrow to cover that. So we've got about 4% interest rate on that. And however it works with the way that the PPA company is able to do it, at the end of 25 years, the savings would have been in the $1 million range. I forget the exact amount. And the net present value of the same project, if we were to finance it, was basically in the same range. So it was kind of equivalent. And the decision was that we wanted to maintain borrowing capacity for other projects that are not strictly energy projects, but are more about, well, the high school needs a roof, the middle school needs a roof, Jackson Street School. The reason we're doing a canopy over parking is because it needs a roof. So that's a lot of potential borrowing that we needed to maintain capacity for. The Ryan Road project that I presented is smaller than what I presented for a few reasons, primarily because the electrical service, again, we went there with the engineer, the electrical service that's there would need to be upgraded to support the entire original designed project. So it's about half the size. I think it's like 180 megawatts. I should have this stuff in front of me, so I'm not trying to do it from memory, but it's like 180 something megawatts.
Kilowatts.
Kilowatts, thank
Yeah.
you. Kilowatts. Yeah, megawatt hours it's actually in the like 180 megawatt hour per annual production. But yeah, it's I should just look it up and then I won't be trying to guess from memory. But anyway, it's smaller, and largely that's because of the electrical service that's available, but also because they actually decided that it wasn't going to be safe to place them on top of the gym roof at Ryan Road. So it's a smaller project, which means that we're able to fund it entirely from the climate stabilization funds. It's got like about a 5-year simple payback period. It's still going to produce more than Ryan Road consumes in electricity right now. I think another 50% will get sent to other things. So that's one that we're still moving forward on. But so Leeds is eliminated and Ryan Road is smaller, and Jackson Street is the same size and it's a PPA. But the nice thing about all of that is that initially when I presented it to you, it was like this kind of choice between a solar or geothermal in terms of what sort of borrowing authority did you want to expend. And as it turns out, we're kind of able to do it all without borrowing on the solar side. And that means that we have plenty of capacity to do borrowing for the geothermal. The basic economics of the geothermal hasn't really changed since the study that I shared with you guys, whatever the last meeting. But we do have some reasons to believe that actually we're probably not going to produce as much water as would be the worst case scenario. And again, following testing, it's none of this guaranteed till we do our first actual well and test everything. But if we can manage to dispose of whatever water is produced through reinfiltration, basically just irrigating the sports field, could save about $2 million off of that project, which then does what Rachel pointed out, makes it actually pretty close to equivalent to a business as usual boiler and chiller replacement. Especially, so the other thing that I didn't share with, or didn't know about, or didn't work out until after presented to you guys, is geothermal in Massachusetts at this scale can earn alternative energy credits under the alternative energy marketplace. I forget what it is. It's like the equivalent of RECs. And so we can actually earn about, over the first 10 years, we can earn about $1 million back, and we can use that to pay down the debt. So that puts it just about at parity with the boiler and chiller. So that's pretty good. And first costs, essentially, and much better in long run costs. We also were able to negotiate with National Grid a much higher. So we initially were not getting much incentive because they had a cap at 150 tons for what they would be willing to subsidize. But we actually negotiated with them and said, this is a really cool project and you ought to support it. And so the range of the incentive is around $1.5 million, which is better. Um, so Eric, I see your hands up.
Yeah, thank you. I just had one question about the solar arrays, and it sparked my interest on the Ryan Road because you said that it's going to be exporting. So my question for you is, is the sizing predicated and the cost predicated on like a no trouble IA? Like the interconnection permit is going to not incur
No.
significant additional costs?
Well, they include in their cost estimate, I want to say it was $20,000. Again, I don't have it right in front of me, for a impact study that might be necessary for both solar projects. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that,
so yeah, just to be clear, and I don't really know what the distribution system limitations are in particular areas. It's not really well publicized, but I mean, I'm not trying to be rain on your parade, but you could end up with $250,000 of distribution system upgrades to install, whatever you're planning on installing. So I'm just curious, you haven't factored that in.
um, they factored in, I should just again have it up, but by memory, it was about $20,000 each for an impact study and for the cost of a potential electrical system upgrades if they were necessary. But they also sized, again, like Ryan Road, they looked at what was there
Okay.
and they sized it so as to avoid the additional cost. They just felt like the juice wasn't worth the squeeze um, on that. So, uh, and in both of these cases, there's no obligation to do a project, so if the project starts to cost more and the economics don't look good, we just don't do it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leading on this is, I mean, if you have to put in new transformers or run new lines, those are all things that would be borne by the developer. So to you know, keep that
Yeah,
in
and
mind.
and the same thing with the PPA, right? We don't pay anything up front with the PPA, and they would basically say, well, your new PPA rate it would be
Right.
such and such in order for us to basically make a profit on this project. And if it's not competitive with what we're already paying for community solar, then we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can make some arguments. I mean, again, you can look long term because if you assume that electricity rates escalate at some rate that's greater than zero, and you have a fixed 25-year PPA rate that's competitive with whatever you have now, by year 25, it's really, really good. But yeah, so I mean that was clear that there's no obligation in any of these to do something that's uneconomic. So yeah, that I I think that would be nuts. Um, so Deb.
Yeah, I have two questions. So, so the Jackson Street where we put it over the parking lot, and I think you might have spoken about this, but I just can't recall. That's not costing much more than if you were to replace the section of the roof to put the solar on. And we're leasing that, right, in the parking
So,
lot?
well, so we lease it to them, essentially lease access is what
Mhm.
we lease. They don't pay anything. We pay our PPA rate for what's electricity is produced.
Mhm.
I didn't get a comparison because in this case, there's no upfront cost to us, so I don't have to get a
Right.
roof.
Mhm.
It is almost certain, I want to say that it's almost certainly the case that if we could somehow just get a roof done, PV on the roof would be cheaper
Mhm.
and would be a better deal. Just, it's almost always the case. Usually a canopy is too expensive to be worth doing.
Mhm.
But with the new but yeah, smart,
Mm.
smart 3.0.
Mm.
There's if your inverter is just the right size, you get enough of a payment back that it worked out. So it did work out, or looks like it'll work out at Jackson Street. And I would say as soon as we get a roof on those buildings, we should get solar on, whether it's solar we pay for or solar we PPA. You know,
In addition to what?
in addition,
Is it- yeah.
because yes,
Yeah.
we'd be producing more than Jackson Street uses now,
Mhm.
but as soon as we've electrified heating and added cooling, which
Mhm.
is desperately needed, that won't be true anymore.
Mhm.
So we're going to need every little bit of production we can get
Okay.
by the time if we're following our decarbonization plan.
Yeah. So it makes sense to have this backup in the parking lot then, because it's not, we're going to need it.
We'll never not use it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And because it's net metered, right? Or can be. So anything we don't use on that site,
Mhm.
we can
Mhm.
allocate
Yeah.
to whatever bill we want,
Mhm.
and presumably we keep that within NPS.
Mhm.
But you know,
Is-
we yes.
Yeah. Oh, I had another question, but
Yeah, let's Deb.
so and then you said that we can use $1 million to pay down the loan, the bond. But when I spoke to Director Nardi, we can't pay down bonds. They have to, if we have a 20-year bond, we have to take 20 years,
Right.
pay it off. But I'm sure you can just put it in the fund and then
Yeah.
use that
It's,
for,
I mean, it's
money, so it'll get
it's
used.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, you're
Mhm.
right. You can't pay it down, but you
Mhm.
can avoid drawing from the general fund
Right.
to pay
Yeah, so
it out.
yeah, 'cause I asked her about putting the small loan and the large loan together, and she said you can't do that and pay it down, so.
Right, right. That makes sense.
Eh,
Yes, I think Angie had her hand up for a bit.
Did you just have a quick follow-up, Eric, on something?
I do want to follow up on a statement Ben made about the PPA.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so my understanding, I'm not a lawyer, but a PPA is on consumption. So if the array produces more than what is consumed, the owner of the facility, the company that you have the PPA in, they can do what they want with that. So I'm not sure the net metering works for the company that you're contracting with. Not the way it is with your when it's owned by you and you can bank the kilowatt hours on your bill.
No, I think you're wrong in this, at least as this particular contract is constructed.
You're gonna get the value. You're gonna pay some rate.
You're obligated to purchase any kilowatt hours produced, and they are assigned to your bill, to that account. So
Okay,
that
so any extra production, the PPA will allow you to assign that to another account.
yes, because
Okay, that's fine.
you're paying
Yeah.
them the 15 cents.
Right.
And
Okay, as long as I understood that, because I know like there's companies out there, they lease your roof, you pay whatever, 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and if there's more production, they bank that. You're just getting a lower electric rate.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, Angie, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So this was kind of just when you mentioned the alternative portfolio standard for the geothermal, that potential kickback funds. I've just been wanting to, I mean, we looked into that a little bit with Mount Holyoke's geothermal and understand how that program works. But as far as I understand, the new House bill that has been continued to move forward, the energy affordability bill, it's going to remove some of those programs. as a way to reduce costs to
Mhm.
utility
Yeah.
payers. And it seems like that one is on the chopping block.
Oh.
It looked like as of the alternative portfolio standard phase out, this provision would end APS compliance at the end of the calendar year 2027, thereby removing compliance obligations for electric load serving entities after that time. So I doubt we're going to get it online in 2 years. So
Nope.
might not be something to bank on if
Uh,
this goes through, right? It's not done yet, right? It went through the TUE,
mhm.
and now, yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
who.
so this is a pretty controversial bill that I think is going to come, is going to get sent back. And there are a lot of, this is the one, I believe this is the one where a lot of people are listed as co-sponsors who had no idea that this is what was being substituted for the thing that they sponsored. So I think that's because the RPS as well is also getting reduced in this bill from 3% down to 1%. And it includes a whole bunch of stuff like Mass Save getting cut pretty significantly and diverting more of its funding towards new gas appliances. So yeah, I think it's controversial. But it's also unknown, right? We also don't know
Yeah.
the outcome.
Yeah, just something to track. But yeah,
No, I think you're right.
It's probably going to get a lot of revisions, hopefully. Let's hope
Yeah.
it gets a lot of revisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Rachel?
On the geothermal side, is it safe to assume that you guys have already connected with the Smith crew who's done their projects on lessons learned and what they've run into? Because I know that they've recently started a bit of a roadshow, maybe even with Mount Holyoke, Angie, around kind of lessons learned and tips for other folks going through it.
We haven't. I mean, aside from kind of like me, just kind of like connecting with them, pretty different kind of project. So a lot of the challenges that they had, I mean, they had some drilling related challenges, but a lot of it was load serving related. And that has to do with kind of the complexity of a campus, and also, quite frankly, the decision to have a circulating hot water and chilled water system as opposed to what you would call like a Gen 3 district system. And for the high school, which is just a single building, well, it's not even a district, so you wouldn't call it Gen 5, but it's simpler is what it comes down to. But also our approach is different in that to me, the lesson learned was having a huge project with engineers and designers coming in with one thing, and then going out to bid for drillers in a whole separate step and getting those to come together. And the approach that I'm hoping to take here is a design bid build turnkey project in which we take somebody who's done it a whole bunch and say, you control it from beginning to end and are responsible for 15 years of performance.
Much better incentive alignment.
Yeah.
Does this exist?
Yeah.
There's groups that'll do that, like engineering firms?
Well, there are very few, but there are, well, two that will do, because part of the other thing is that this isn't normal drilling either. To be able to keep the entire borehole field within the footprint of the parking lot, we also need to do a whole lot of incline drilling, right? So like instead of just going straight downward, nearby you're going off at an angle, so you get more surface area below the surface that you can get. And that is a fairly small number of drillers who do that. And what you want is an engineer who's worked with the particular driller and the particular machines to make sure that they are designing production that can actually happen mostly in the summer when people aren't in school. Like in order to make all of that work, my judgment was I don't want to be piecing it together. I want one entity that controls it. And so, yeah, there are these two, there may be others, I just haven't found them yet, that do this and that do guarantee performance and monitoring. And that's built into the price, I'm sure. But I think that otherwise you end up. So in my previous job, one of the things I ended up doing was going to a lot of places that had geothermal who said geothermal doesn't work. And we have had to install a boiler to make up for the fact that like this, yeah, so there's, I think, I'm going to forget all the places. Harvard, Mass has a library, I think it was. I think there's someplace further out west. And there were a bunch of them. And they're all from this generation of geothermal that I think we're well past, right? But in all of these cases, they were unbalanced well fields. So the driller had said, "Yeah, I can make you some holes." And then they walked away and they didn't, because they didn't have to guarantee performance. They either severely undersized the well field or some of these were open wells or what are they called? Standing column wells, which can work, but they require filtration. And among the problems was just that nobody was there to maintain the filters. And so you ended up with no water flow. And guess what? Your heat pump can't produce anything. So I encountered so many of these, again, just as a extension professor, that I don't want this a system to be set up where we get handed something that doesn't have that level of guarantee, and I think it's worth paying for. And I think if you look at the amount of maintenance that central services has to do to try and run their systems, say just at the high school right now, asking them to now learn an entirely new system, here we're handing off this thing and now you just run it. I just feel like that's a recipe for high costs and unhappy people.
Can I just ask a follow-up about like I don't remember I remember you gave like a presentation on the geothermal proposal for the high school, but was it going to include cooling too? Will this system have heating and cooling?
Yeah.
So
Well,
like
it
yeah,
needs to. Like you actually
right.
need it. You need it to be
Yep.
balanced. So you need to have some rejection of heat. Fortunately, the high school is already pretty balanced in their heating and cooling demands annually. So like annual use of both. The difference is that the high school right now, it's so expensive to run the chiller that they always don't until they absolutely have to. And then, and so there's lots of complaints. Now, you actually really want to. And in fact, the electricity use to do cooling is so low for geothermal because again, your delta T, that temperature lift that you're trying to do or to reject to the ground, maybe nothing. Like if you have 45-degree ground temperature, you may be just circulating water. And so, very, very little compression required. So yeah, I mean, that's I would say for any of these projects, not just geothermal, but literally any project we do in a school, we're adding cooling.
Great.
Rachel, you're still hands up. Anyway, that was just really meant to be a report out, and to make sure Eric could see if I had made any errors.
That was a very helpful update and a very interesting conversation. So good job.
Thank you, Eric. So yeah, any other comments or thoughts?
I just think the company, having a company oversee it makes a lot of sense, like a general contractor when you're doing a renovation. And um, I would think since there would be more and more of those companies popping up too over the next bunch of years. So um, yeah, it seems like a wise move because
Yeah.
once it's done, it's done. And if,
Yeah.
you know,
And not necessarily for every project.
Mhm.
Like Forbes Library, I do want to get a geothermal, a ground loop heat exchanger there. I think because of the load that's there, it could be simple.
Mhm.
As long as you do good design, it's kind of straightforward. We already have a test well. I think it's really different than the high school. We've got a lot of challenges. Um, okay, the next last item is department head updates. I kind of feel like I gave mine. Um, Louis, do you have any?
Well, we're watching the most interesting thing to me is the 737 Bridge Road, the old nursing home conversion to 60 dwelling units. And it's been problematic on any number of levels. It's an evolving process. I hate to say it, but they're having a lot of trouble with the geothermal.
Oh, really?
And it's holding up occupancy at this point. And
Really?
I stop by every few days just to see how things are going. And I think that it goes to perhaps what you said is that there were at least 5 different contractors involved in the project, and there's 3 left who are breaking their fingers, pointing at each other, which I think and it may not be cutting edge to you, but it's cutting edge to the group of people that are there. Um, it's a 70,000 square foot building. They're putting solar on the roof, geothermal heat and hot water, with also air source heat pump balancing, I guess is the way that they'd call it. I'm not exactly sure how it all works out. But it's a very complicated system. But what I wanted to bring up was once to get it sorted, I'd really like to get one of the people, perhaps the architect or one of the project principals, to come and talk to the committee about how it worked out, because it's to me the ideal energy conservation, which is all how many million tons of bricks that got reused without even moving them. And
Yep.
those are the things. There's a project coming up at the old rectory at St. Mary's Church, which is going to be a conversion to a hotel, 18-room hotel. Again, same fascinating project, going to be air source heat pumps, not going to be geothermal. There's not much room there, but making an existing building work is a huge step forward in saving materials. So it's been interesting, and the new energy code is now the new energy code, and it's changing all the time. And I was going to suggest that I forward the sponsored by Mass Save, but 1 hour sort of seminars on energy conservation code come up 2 or 3 times a month, and I'll pass that along so that Gabby can distribute it. They're not the most interesting things, but there's good information in them. So
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any information on kind of what specifically was the issue with the geothermal at Prospect Place?
no,
Okay.
I think that I've heard conflicting reports. And what I know is that when it's done, I'll find out
Fair
what
enough.
issues were. That's when the dust settles.
Yeah, I mean, clearly
So-
it can
wait,
it can be
okay,
done
so-
wrong.
Well, some of the things are like just trying to get the antifreeze solution, and you can't buy it. People are driving around in pickup trucks, picking up half full barrels of 60% where they would expect to have X to the X number of barrels of 100% delivered so they can mix it. And they're targeting a 25% mixture in the piping. So they're struggling to make that happen and constantly trying some more, sorting some out, on and on and on and on. And it's an art, I think, or it's a very honed skill. And I don't know if all the people there have their skills honed to the degree they might want to. But that's not the only issue in that place either. There was the electrical code changed and some of the plans didn't reflect the changes, things like that. But it's still exciting to watch because I think it's it's an extremely energy conscious project.
Yeah, I think everyone's really excited about it. So I'd love to see it actually work well. So Eric just had to go off. So thank you, Eric. And again, you guys heard enough from me. I don't know that you need any big updates. I guess I'll give you a tiny little update, which is that we've been experimenting with a motor pool as a way to reduce the number of vehicles we need to own and how quickly we can transition to EVs. And basically, we've demonstrated that we have sufficient capacity with the cars that we have to serve all 39 people with our 7 vehicles total. And in fact, we're going to probably remove one vehicle from the pool and use it to substitute for the mail carrier, which has a large impact. And we also have been able to improve people's safety. It's not strictly an environmental thing, but because we've got telematics in all the vehicles, I went to this meeting with basically all the users and said, guys, our safety, like our crash likelihood, for 100,000 miles or something was like 18%. And, and the base, the kind of the standard best in class is like 10%. And what it turned out is nobody had experience driving EVs. And so they didn't think eco mode would be a good idea. And so basically I taught them about eco mode, which just kind of eases things up a little bit, and about e-pedal, which on the Nissan Leafs, it's one pedal driving. It's like driving a golf cart. Kind of gotten people to try these things out. And in 2 weeks after that meeting, our safety rating, whatever, on our that we get on Geotab dropped down to best in class. So
Well, that's because without those things, you can take off on an EV.
exactly.
You can really beat anybody head to head at a light, which is fun.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, so that's a side effect of that, but also that communication did work. Like I showed it to them, taught them the tool, and then they use it better. So yeah, so that's I think that's the big update, is that it's taken some learning, just like how to share, how to use the software that we've got for sharing and all that, but we avoided purchasing way more vehicles. And we were able to the next phase is to use the leasing approach that we did to acquire the vehicles to more rapidly turn over the whole fleet, and starting with kind of older ones. But we're also able to prioritize, again, saying like, okay, this vehicle puts on a lot of miles and it burns gasoline. Let's target that one for replacement sooner. So we're now kind of moving outside the motor pool into the rest of the non-shareable municipal fleet, and I think that's going to go well. Probably, I mean, well, we know it avoided at least 4. But and also we sold and got rid of and didn't replace 2 already. And then we've got another 2 that I'm not selling them just yet, but I've not added them to the pool to just demonstrate that if we don't add them, everyone's going to be fine. And as soon as we're really confident, we'll sell those 2. And those won't. So it's not just not buying, but it's also not owning and not maintaining and not driving nice cars. Compared to what we would have bought, right? Because there was a bunch of things kind of like on multiple years of CIP of that are now just off. Because like the cars were sitting out there. Yeah. So Angie, or is that from before?
No, I just had I don't know if this can happen in these department updates, but do we have an update on the Community Resilience Hub? Is that just like a project forever on pause until money falls from the sky? Or is there anything trying to push that forward?
What I would say is that there is no current path to funding it in its currently imagined form. And among the things that Katie, who I wish were here, is going to be doing is taking some money that was appropriated for one project and requesting that it get reappropriated to cover a detailed space study for the municipal downtown campus to really figure out what should we be doing with our buildings, come up with a real plan that's not just, oh, we need to fix this, oh, we need to fix that, but like, what do we really need? So she's going to try and get that plan, and a hub will be part of what is assigned to whatever company gets or architect gets that contract to help us think about, well, how could you do it? Because I think there's not a lot of disagreement that the need for the services of the hub is real. It's the question of, is that particular building with that particular design the best way to do it, or even a plausible way to do it given the availability of funds? And so that's part of it. And so it's about exploring the options before saying that we're doing one thing or another. But at least we can say that the reality of, we applied for some grants. we applied for some grants with all the buzzwords designed to make the Trump administration hate it. And so we're not getting those grants. So given that reality, it seemed worthwhile to, like you said, pause, and since we don't have any funds for it anyway, and then also try to use the time to design something that holistically understands what are the space needs of the entire municipal campus.
Right, or maybe there's a creative way to do it where there's services tucked into various buildings rather than one centralized hub, right? If there's a way to efficiently use multiple spaces. To be determined by a study, but glad to know
to be
something's
determined by
happening.
somebody
Yeah.
other than me, basically.
Yeah.
But I also think that the fact that, for instance, I hadn't really thought of that, and I would say we would want to at least have that shot down by somebody who's in a better position to do so. Like, if Katie were here, I would maybe suggest to her that we have some sort of a periodic feedback process for the designer before they get too far down the track to get ideas like that.
Mm-hmm. I'd be curious. I don't know if it's something that we can hear report backs on in this department updates. I know when Katie's not here, but in other ways, it'd be good.
Yeah, but I mean the basic answer is yeah, no money, it's on hold. But it's not that the services are not needed and that we should be doing that somehow. Yeah, I don't have anything else. Should we vote to adjourn? All right.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
All right. Second by Eric, who's still here. Okay. I will call the roll. Eric Winkler,
approve.
Louis Hasbrook,
Yes.
Angie Gregory,
Yes.
Rachel Flynn Kasuba,
Yes.
Deb Clemmer.
Yes.
Did I get Louis already? Yes.
Yep.
Me. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
Okay, bye.